First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone here for this opportunity to hopefully we can wrap up the discussion on this Heart Sutra today. Okay, last time we were in this section here. Let's see, basically is 无怪故无有恐怖. Okay, so all right, but before we continue there, the section before here at the bottom is here 无智亦无德. Okay, so this I don't think I mentioned what this basically 无德 means, there's nothing to attain, nothing to gain. Okay, nothing to get, really, nothing to attain. I didn't mention that the 无智 is there's no wisdom. Now, we've been talking about wisdom, right? We need to have wisdom. So what it means here is because there's no ignorance, right? Ignorance and wisdom are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Actually, everything in duality is, you can say, they're like two sides of the same coin. Okay, so when you have no ignorance, then there's also no wisdom. There's no need for wisdom. Okay, so wisdom is only you need wisdom to overcome to kind of to kind of get rid of the ignorance. But so without ignorance, then there's you don't really need wisdom. I mean, this is kind of like it's just a label, really. I mean, when we talk about wisdom, but you have that. I mean, we call it there is wisdom. It's just that we don't need to. There's no ignorance to kind of get rid of anymore. Okay, so I mean, remember, this is all talking about in the context of the Dharmakaya, the Sunyata, the Buddha nature. So this is at the highest state of highest state of mind, if you will, highest state of existence, where there's none of this stuff is needed or exists, so to speak. Okay, at least not from our point of view. Okay, so we're continuing with this. Okay, Yan Li Din Dao Meng Shang. Okay, let's see. Oops, let's go. Okay, so that's here. So it continues saying Yan Li Din Dao Meng Shang, right? Ju Jing Nieppan. Okay, so this is basically the contrary, right? Din Dao Meng Shang, right? These are like contrary delusional thoughts. They're far removed from us, okay? And allowing us, so Ju Jing Nieppan, that's Nieppan is nirvana. So it allows us to reach the state of nirvana, right? If we have no delusions, nothing that's false or contrary to what's the truth, or the nature, if you will, or the Tao, that then we will be we'll be able to reach nirvana. Okay, so in practice, of course, that really means that we need to constantly self-reflect. Okay, reflecting. Remember the very beginning, 观自在. Okay, so we have to illuminate ourselves, illuminate our own heart and mind, right? To see what's you can say what's wrong with it. I mean, what's the wrong views that we have, the wrong perspective that we have, the wrong state of mind, and the wrong mindset. Okay, that we have to understand and correct that. All right, and so we self-reflect instead of having the wrong views and distracting our mind with those wrong views. Okay, so basically the opposite of self-reflecting then is it's looking out, and anytime we view the world, view other people, view situations, it's always unless we are enlightened, right? It's always like duality. Okay, a view of duality. And it's all subjective because we have that ego, right? The ego is really the the five skandhas. Okay, that's what builds up the ego. All right, so so if we, we have to kind of self-reflect and realize that, okay, so we have this ego, which is not the true self. It's the self that it's actually, you can say it's the false self, or it's the small little self, right? It's the selfish self. And we have to kind of get rid of that, because that's the one that causes, well, it's basically gives us the wrong views, okay, and the delusion, right? So we have to get rid of all that. And then it says 三世诸佛, okay, so 依般若波罗蜜多故, okay, so basically that 三世诸佛is all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Okay, so they all rely on and use the Prajna Paramita to achieve nirvana, right? So without exception, all the Buddhas, it's the same thing, Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom is what they've accomplished, okay, in order to achieve nirvana. And so, so if we expect to achieve nirvana, we have to do the same thing, all right? So we have to perfect our wisdom, right? Prajna is to break through all delusions that we have. Again, that's, our ego is kind of like the ringleader there that we have to get rid of, right? Paramita is to reach the ideal or perfect state, okay? So there's no duality, no subjectivity, no attachment, nothing, okay? So, all right, so this is saying that all Buddhas, so that's why this Prajna Paramita, or the Prajna wisdom, is so important, all right, in our practice, okay, in trying to achieve nirvana, all right, or ultimate enlightenment, all right. So I think that's okay, right. So ultimately, then it says to de anodolo samyal samputi, okay, to basically, so this is a continuation of that sentence. Basically, it says to achieve the unsurpassed, supreme, perfect enlightenment. That's the Sanskrit Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Okay, so that in the Chinese they kind of transliterate that anodolo samyak sambodhi. Da means to attain, right, or achieve. Right. So in order to, so all Buddhas, they've basically a definition of a Buddha is they've attained this. Okay, they've attained this supreme, unsurpassed, supreme, perfect enlightenment. Right. So we have to conquer ourselves, really, our views, our thoughts, our desires, attachments, etc., all these things, right, in order to achieve that. And that's what they've done. That's what the Buddhas have done, and that's what the Bodhisattvas have done, or they're on their way, almost there. Okay, I say it's really a matter of flipping the switch in the mind. Okay, it's a change of perspective, change of our mindset. Right? Everything is in the mind. There's nothing that's external that is really preventing us from doing this. Okay. The problem is unfortunately, when we are still delusional, when we still have the ego, we still believe in the external, the forms, right? The five skandhas, the everything we believe is affecting us and preventing us, or making it difficult for us to to achieve this ultimate, this enlightenment. But yet, really, the power is in our mind. We can do it. Okay, we just have to obviously we have to have that will. Now, we've been reincarnating for the Buddhists say, for 60,000 years in this cycle, right? So obviously we've accumulated a lot of karmic, a lot of karma, planted a lot of karmic seeds. And so a lot of things, there's this karmic affinity, if you will, or there's this karma that's pulling us, this force of karma, okay? And yes, that can make it difficult for us. But so on the one hand, we need to have that faith, that sincerity, that force of will to overcome that. And that by itself is not enough. I mean, we also need the force of vows, right? We talked about that before. force of vows to overcome the force of karma. Okay, so anytime we encounter situations where it's basically a manifestation of the karma or the karmic retribution, then at that point it could be, I mean, I won't say it's too late, but we need to do more at that point. I mean, besides, if we think we're doing a lot already in terms of performing merits, establishing or nurturing our virtues, it means that we're not doing enough, that we need to do more. And one way is that we need to, make another vow or make some other vows that will help us. Obviously, when we make the vow, we do it sincerely, and therefore we have to fulfill the vow, right? Now, fulfilling the vow may not necessarily mean, it has to be done in a day or in a week or in a month or in a year even. But, we make the vow and we follow through, okay? That can help. All right. But yeah, so ultimately, basically the whole, the sutra is talking about that there is nothing to attain, right? Everything is empty. And so because there's nothing to attain, right? Because the problem is what we think we must attain is actually just a state of mind, right? So it's really all in our mind. That's because we believe perhaps that what we're trying to attain is something that we don't already have, right? It's something external. A lot of things, the material things, of course. It's like, we say, I mean, I don't have that car, I don't have that house, so that's something that I need to get, right? Attain, I can get that, and then it'll be mine. Well, it'll be mine for a while only, okay? It's not permanent, right? Certainly when we die, it's no longer ours. Or, hey, who knows, it may get repossessed or something before, so that is, it is not permanent what we gain here, okay, what we can obtain in the material world. But even the things that we think that are not in the material world that we want to attain, for example, nirvana, even that, there's really nothing to attain. Really, we already have it. It's just a question of whether we are in that right state of mind. Okay, so flip the switch. Right, that's what we have to do. All right. So now, free from all distortion and delusion, right? Ultimate nirvana is reached by way of the Prajna Paramita. Buddhas of past, present, and future attain anuttara samyak sambodhi. Right. So this is really, you can say it's the ultimate. We talk a lot about wu wei, right? It's the ultimate wu wei. Okay. There's no motive, no subjectivity, no conditions, no attachment, right? Nothing. Okay. It just is, right? It's suchness, it's thusness, it's nature, okay? Nature with a capital N. It's Tao, right? Okay, so here, yeah. Remember that, as we achieve higher and higher levels of enlightenment, we have to also let go of the dharmas. Right? The dharmas being the teachings, well, not just, right? Well, the dharmas, of course, the phenomenal, the forms, right? Material things or other forms, we also have to let go of. But that also includes the teachings, okay? The teachings, the methods, right? Now, so Buddha, right? Before he attained that, this anuttara samyak sambodhi, right? He still had the thought of attainment. He said, hey, I still want to, or need to, I'm trying to attain this ultimate enlightenment, okay? But because of that, this was holding him back, this thought of attainment. Say, hey, there's something that I need to attain. And it's only when Dipankara Buddha kind of pointed out to him, then he let it go, finally. He let that go. There's no more thought, no more idea of trying to attain nirvana, and therefore he attained nirvana. Okay, so so that was his final. You can say that was his final attachment that he had to let go of. Right? He had let go of everything else, but that was it. That was the final one, and that was the final one that was preventing him from reaching that state of nirvana. But once he let that go, he had no more of that thought of having something to attain. Then he was in the state of nirvana. So that's the state of the sunyata, the emptiness. Okay, that the sutra is also talking about, right? Because ultimately there is nothing to attain, right? So did he attain something? He didn't, right? I mean, it's just he had to let go of something, and then he was there. Okay, so there was nothing to attain in the end, after all, right? So it's a different perspective. Our perspective is we tend to think, oh, there is something, we have to get something. Okay, we have to achieve or attain something. But we forget about letting things go. We have to let things go because these are things that don't belong to us, right? They don't, it's like if you're trying to climb a mountain, right? You're trying to reach the peak and you're carrying, 100 pounds of stuff in your backpack. Well, that's going to slow you down. So how do you reach the peak in a more easily? You got to let go, get rid of the backpack, get rid of the 100 pounds, the extra 100 pounds, right? So that's really in life, or well, not in life, but in trying to attain nirvana. For us to transcend this cycle of birth and death, we need to let go of things. Okay, we need to let go of those attachments. That is the ultimate thing. That's really what we need to learn to do. Okay, that's like the one big lesson that we need to do. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So that completed that section. Now we're in the final section here. It says 故知般若蜜多四大神咒、四大明咒、四无上咒、四无等等咒，能除一切苦，真实不虚。故说般若蜜多咒，即说咒曰：揭谛揭谛，波罗揭谛，波罗僧揭谛，菩提萨婆诃。Okay, so and that's the conclusion of the sutra. Okay, so 故知般若蜜多四大神咒四大明咒. Okay, so basically it's saying that the perfection of wisdom is the powerful, the great divine mantra, the illuminating mantra that is indescribable. Okay, so now, they're treating this perfection of wisdom as kind of like there's a mantra, okay, and actually it'll say what that is later. But okay, so it is the unsurpassed mantra, a dharani. In this case, a dharani is like a mantra, but they don't. It's saying that the words of that mantra don't carry specific meaning to it, and so you're not supposed to, like try to understand what the sounds or whatever the words, the mean actually mean. So it's almost like an incantation. Okay, that may not the words may not necessarily mean anything, although that's how they describe it. But actually, there is a meaning there. Okay, so it is the unsurpassed mantra without equal that can transcend all suffering. Okay, so this perfection of wisdom allows us to transcend all suffering. All right, this is the truth beyond any doubt. Therefore, the Prajna Paramita mantra is proclaimed and spoken thus. Okay, so then it says what that is. Let's see. Okay, so here it is. It says, in the Chinese is 揭谛, 波罗揭谛. Okay, so I guess in the Sanskrit it would be gate, paragate, right? Which, actually they do. Those words, I guess, mean gone, beyond. Okay, so it's like, you going beyond, right? getting to the shore of enlightenment. Okay, going beyond this cycle of beyond the suffering. Okay, the other, you can also say that this also means basically, open the door to our prajna wisdom, right? Open up the wisdom eye, then we can achieve perfection. So this could be a hint to saying, yeah, we have to open up our wisdom, right? And for us today, that means we have to receive the Tao, okay, right? That's the first treasure, opening up the wisdom eye, okay? And it says parasamgate, right, gone utterly beyond to the other shore. But that's actually, if you look at the Chinese words here, but it says, so once we are awake, then we must also awaken others so that they may also transcend suffering. So that's what a bodhisattva does. So it's not just once we are awake, then we don't, we just cultivate ourselves and we transcend. That's what an arhat would do. But we are. Our practice, our cultivation is basically part of, you can say, it's the following the Mahayana tradition, which is the Bodhisattva path. So therefore, once we are awake, then we also need to awaken others. So if we say, well, to be awakened, then we receive the Tao, then we need to also let other people receive the Tao. Okay. So, and then finally, Bodhisvaha. Okay, so that says complete the Bodhi path, or the Bodhisattva path, cultivation, right? So now that we are awake and aware, we must make haste to act upon it, right? Complete the cultivation practice, right? So this is actually, so we have to, once we receive the Tao, then we also need to practice. We have to cultivate, all right? So that's, the cultivation is part and parcel of that in order to attain the ultimate enlightenment. So we must practice. Okay, so that without the practice, we really won't get there. Even though we received the Tao, okay, we open up our wisdom eye, but if we're not using our wisdom, we don't develop that wisdom or manifest that wisdom, then we won't succeed. Okay, so all right. Now, okay, so I mean, it says, this is kind of like this Dharani or yeah. So this is, so I guess maybe people will interpret this to say, oh, this is like a mantra. I would just recite these words, okay? Recite these, and then I'll get wisdom. It's not exactly right. Okay, so here, let me see. So that would essentially be some kind of like an esoteric teaching. Okay, so is there an esoteric teaching, like a mantra that can enable us to transcend, right? So it's like, oh, all you'd have to do is just recite this. It's like some secret a secret mantra, or it's like a magic spell, something that you can learn that suddenly, oh, then you're enlightened. Well, basically, people seem to think that, right, the secret to enlightenment is contained in some secret knowledge and practice, right? Just like the disciples of the fifth patriarch, Huiming. Sorry, let me see here. Oh, okay, yeah. So, let me just tell this brief, little bit story here, because it relates to the sixth patriarch. Okay, now the sixth patriarch, when he became, he basically became the successor. Well, Huineng, okay, was his name. He was the successor of the fifth patriarch, Hongren, right? Because he demonstrated that he was basically enlightened. Okay, and so now at the time, the fifth patriarch, he passed the robe and the bowl to him to indicate that he was the next, patriarch. So basically, the patriarch is the one who has the robe and the bowl. Okay, so that's the indication that person is the patriarch. However, fifth patriarch also told Huineng, sixth patriarch, that he would be the last in this tradition. Okay, so that the tradition would end with the sixth patriarch. So after the sixth patriarch, the seventh patriarch would not, he would not pass the bowl and the robe to them, and it would not basically have any significance. The robe and bowl. Okay, it won't mean that, oh, whoever has it is the patriarch. All right, but but during this time, the fifth and sixth patriarchs time, it was still had that symbol. Okay, and so now the thing is, sixth patriarch, he was basically illiterate. Okay, and he wasn't really even a member. He wasn't one of the monks in the fifth patriarch's monastery or temple, and he was always working in the kitchen. He never even was listening to the lectures. Okay, so so now when they found, remember there was that test with the I guess the poems or whatever you call those that the fifth patriarch gave, said, describe the Buddha nature, right? And so his senior disciple, Sung Shu, came up with one that's kind of likened it to basically a mirror that you have to constantly clean, right? And the fifth patriarch realized that, well, he's really not there yet. He's not enlightened yet. He's still stuck on forms. And then sixth patriarch came out with a counter, you can say, counterpoint to that, saying that, oh no, the Buddha nature, there is no mirror, there's no dust to defile it, make it dirty, right? So there's nothing to clean. And so when the fifth patriarch saw that, he thought, well, that's more advanced. Right? That's getting closer to the actual truth. All right. So, but anyways, so once the fifth patriarch's disciples realized that the Sun Shu did not become the next patriarch, right? It was Huineng. Then they felt that, well, that can't be, right? How can it be? This illiterate person, how can he become the patriarch? So they were angry, and they started to chase the sixth patriarch. Well, before, basically the fifth patriarch, after he passed the mantle of the patriarchate, I guess, to Huineng, he told him to leave, right? So he had to go and pretty much kind of go into hiding, and because, well, he knew that his disciples would go after him, would try to get back that robe and bowl. So anyways, they chase him, and one of them was this person named Hui Ming. Okay, so he was a general. So because he had training, he traveled faster than the other disciples, and he caught up to the sixth patriarch. Now, basically, the sixth patriarch, so when he realized that, this person is catching up to him, he placed his robe and bowl on a rock, and so actually, let me see. Then he said, basically, the robe and bowl are tokens of faith. How can they be taken by force? Very, very interesting. And then he hid himself. And then shortly after, this Hui Ming showed up, right? And when he saw the robe and bowl, he tried to grab it, but he found that he couldn't even move it. He couldn't pick it up. Okay, it was kind of stuck. And when he realized that he couldn't take it, then he called out to the sixth patriarch and said, "Hey, I came to here for the true Dharma. I didn't come for the robe and bowl." Okay, so then the sixth patriarch came out of his hiding, and he sat on a rock. The Hui Ming then made obeisance. I guess he bowed to him and asked to be taught the true Dharma. All right. So sixth patriarch said, "Since you have come for the Dharma, you can put aside all affinities or conditions. Do not give rise to a single thought, and I will teach you." See, there you go. That's kind of, I think that, in the Chinese, it's slightly different wording, but it's basically let go of all karmic affinities, don't give rise to a single thought. Okay, so that's what he said. The sixth patriarch said to him. All right. And so basically not having, without thoughts of either good or evil, right, at this moment. So there's the sixth patriarch saying again, what is Hui Ming's original face? It's a ban mian mu. And that, I mean, original face is like your original, who you really are, okay? So when Hui Ming heard these words, he became enlightened. All right, so basically, he can become like an arhat. So Hui Ming then asked further, apart from the secret speech and secret meanings just spoken to him, I mean, obviously, I think the sixth patriarch, he said other stuff. He taught him some other stuff. But okay, but is there another secret meaning? Right? The sixth patriarch said, what has been spoken to you is not secret. If you turn the illumination inward, the secret is with you. Okay, so basically, sorry. Okay, so he told him that should have no thoughts of good or evil, that there is no, but basically there is no esoteric teaching. There is no some special teaching that you need to achieve enlightenment. Okay. Again, most people, they think, wow, there's got to be some secret, right? Now, okay, so, and then just all you have to do is look within, right? Look within. So, 观自在. So, look within, okay? Illuminate your own mind, all right? That's what you need to do. And the secret is actually within you. So, the secret is, well, it's the Buddha nature, okay? So, that's within us already. All right. Now, when we receive the Tao, okay, so receive the Tao blessing. We say, oh yeah, you can receive the three treasures. It's actually what you receive is knowledge, okay, of the three treasures, right? We explain it, but really during the ceremony when you receive the Tao, you didn't receive the three treasures. It was pointed out to you. It was pointed to you what those the three treasures that is in you, within yourself. Okay, so we have to realize that the three treasures is actually with us already. Okay, right? Although we say it's a heavenly secret, right? We can't talk about it. That's the knowledge. Okay, we can't talk about the knowledge of the three treasures. However, the real secret actually has always been with us, and that's what the three treasures points out. However, in the white era, right, this time that we're in, right, it is a special time. As long as we know the three treasures, we can at least enter the first gate of heaven. Okay, so that's why we always tell people they have to remember the three treasures. Okay, that's just knowledge. Now, obviously, the first treasure is transmitted to you. It's not knowledge. That's opening up the third eye, the wisdom eye. Okay, so obviously you have to go through that. That's why you have to go through that ceremony to open up that third eye. That cannot be opened through just the knowledge of knowing this. Okay, and so this is something that, because this is a special time right now. In the past, it was a little bit different. Okay, you didn't. Actually, to attain enlightenment, you don't necessarily need to, have that kind of knowledge. All right, but for us, because we're not as, let's say, we don't have such a good foundation, perhaps, not as good wisdom as the cultivators in the past have, just like Hui Ming, for example, where he can just hear the teaching and realize and become enlightened at that point. Okay, so for us, it's a little bit different. You can say that this is, through the mercy of God, through the mercy of the Buddhas, that allow us to have these three treasures, and as long as we have the knowledge. Now, obviously, we also need to cultivate. Okay, so it's not just knowing it and having received it or pointed out to us and knowing it. We have to cultivate. We have to practice. Okay, we still have to practice, because ultimately the practice is what. This will get us into heaven temporarily. Okay, it's only temporary. We say, oh yeah, you can transcend the cycle of life and death. birth and death, but it's only temporary. Okay, if we want to make it permanent, we we have to cultivate. We have to have merit. Okay, we have to change our mindset. We have to do everything that the bodhisattvas and Buddhas did, before us, to reach that point. Okay, so but during this time, at least, we're given what Holy Teacher said is 10,800 years of transcending life and death, birth and death. So, but after that, it really depends on our how much merit, what kind of merit and virtue we have. Right? If it's not sufficient, if we're not sufficiently enlightened, right, we're gonna have to come back. Right? Okay. All right. So any mantra, it's basically just a tool, right? And it depends on how we use it. Our our mindset, our sincerity, etc. So it's really it depends. So it really depends on us. Okay. Now, we do not want to overemphasize the tool, in this case, the mantra, right? Or special practice or attachment to a practice, right? Because that is not the essence, right? The tool itself is not useful unless it's used, right? What's more important is the person who's using it. Okay, so and what they do with it. So that's the tool itself is not the essence. You can say it's part of the function. Okay, it's part of the use, which is a function. All right. So therefore, and we shouldn't be attached to it, just like any kind of method of practice, whether it's meditation or anything else, that we shouldn't be too attached to that and say, oh, this is it. This is the only way. Definitely not the only way, but we should not be too attached to say, oh, this is the ultimate, because in the end, that will prevent us from reaching the ultimate. Just like Buddha had to let go of that, even just the idea or the thought of attainment, right? We have to let go of these methods as well. Once we've accomplished what they're for, right? The tool has its purpose, and once it's fulfilled its purpose, we don't need it anymore. Okay. So the use of the tool is actually also to transform the heart and mind. Okay, so it's not really to deal with something external. It's all these tools, the practices, is ultimately what we're transforming, what we're changing is inside, is our heart and mind, okay, on the inside, right? And once we transform what's on the inside, our heart and mind, then that basically translates to our manifestation in our actions and words, speech and all that, okay. Basically, the best thing is, keep it plain and simple, right? To not become attached to anything. So, if we say, oh, I've learned something special, some special practice, then you might say, this is because it's special, right? And I had to go through some training to get to be adept at it. Then you might become attached to it. So, but actually, there is nothing special about the practice and cultivation, right? There's no single absolute technique or practice, right? Because we talk about a lot of different practices, or like 6 paramitas, right? The Noble Eightfold Paths. All these are different parts of the practice, let's say. So the practice is really the sum of all of these things. Okay, it's not just one, right? And if we keep to the 4 normals, right? What's very common or commonplace, it's routine, right? We do the same stuff every day. Just like, in our practice, we should, practice every day. It's not say, oh, I do it every once in a while. It should become routine. It should, again, keep it simple, plain, and finally, it's very genuine, very natural, okay? There's nothing you really need to add to it, right? Or embellish it, right? So, and, this last one, the one that gets you to the other shore is the best. Okay, so that's kind of sounds like a cop-out, say, so but it's really whatever works, okay, for us. I mean, the 6 paramitas, Noble Eightfold Paths, those are, you can say they're like principal guidelines that we follow. But when it gets down to the very specifics, those really depend on our affinities, on the conditions. Okay, so we can't really go down to the really detailed instructions, say, oh, you do exactly this, or it's like, oh, you have to contribute, you have to donate this amount of dollars or this percentage of your income. It's not like that, because that all depends. Okay, it's really that is really not as important as what's inside, in our mindset, what's in our heart and mind. Okay, our sincerity. All right, when we do it. All right, so all right, so we shouldn't become stuck on that. So that's that's potentially another pitfall where we might be attached to some specific method. Okay, so right, yeah. I mean, we can look at nature, to be inspired. Right, nature is Tao, and so we just follow the way of nature. Our life today is pretty much anti-nature. It's going against nature. Okay, and so we're kind of seeing a reaction from nature that we can see, like with global warming, things like that. That it's reacting to what we're doing. Okay, so or even this pandemic is a reaction to what we're doing. Okay, okay. So, but anyways, in order to do this, okay, so we have to let go of or get rid of all subjective duality. In a free society, we talk about freeing the body, or freeing, for our speech and actions. Right. So, like in a democratic society, that's what we emphasize, that freedom. But really, we must free the mind from its attachments and deluded or false views. Yeah, that's really the more important thing, right? I mean, you can have all the freedoms you want, but if the mind is still deluded, right, and it's full of attachments, then those freedoms are actually going to come and bite you, right? You're going to have problems that come about because of that. Because the ultimate source of the problems is in the heart and mind. Okay, it's not the external stuff. All right. Okay. All right. So let's kind of get to the summary here. All right. So we want to use the Prajna wisdom to realize the void nature of the 5 skandhas. Right. This is our ego, our delusion of who we are, or what we are. Right. So do not abide in forms. Right? Do not view phenomena with subjective or dualistic perception. When we say do not abide in forms, it also does not mean that we should go to the other extreme where we say, oh, we abide in emptiness. Okay, so you don't want to do that either. But we have to realize that the forms and mind are interdependent, right? I explained that last week, I guess, that they depend on each other, all right? Or at least our consciousness does. Okay, our consciousness and forms are mutually dependent, right? Without one, you don't have the other, all right? So, and we want to transform the consciousness into wisdom. And so, one thing that we would do is to take things lightly and never personally, right? There's just too many things that happen in our lives that we hear, people say to us, or that they do, that we take too seriously or we take personally, and that is really the path to suffering. Okay, so we have to let that go. Don't take it. It's no big deal. It's nothing. Okay, but really, why we take it seriously or personally is because it's the ego. Okay, that's the ego, that's the delusional self. So we have just get rid of that. Okay, and let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, in terms of, let's see, right, treating things as being empty, it just kind of reminded me of there's the scene in Star Wars, right? The first Star Wars movie, well, which would be Episode 4, right? A New Hope, right? Where Darth Vader is fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so I assume you guys have seen Star Wars. Okay, all the Star Wars movies probably. But anyways, they're fighting, right? And before the fighting ends, Obi-Wan tells Vader that, well, if Vader kills him, he will only become stronger, right? In the end, Obi-Wan actually lets Darth Vader strike him down, right, to kill him. But actually what happened? So after Vader struck him down, he disappeared. Basically, Obi-Wan, his body disappeared. Okay, now that's for done in a movie. Okay, but the idea is that he returned to the emptiness. Okay, he returned to the sunyata. Okay, that's the void, right? So that's how come he became stronger. He is now one with the void. Okay, so that's kind of the symbolism there. Okay, or the representation is there, right? Okay. So, he became, yeah, you can say, well, they used the force, right? The force. That's what it is. The force is the Tao, is this sunyata. Okay. Now, and then consciousness and wisdom, right? Like I said earlier, there are two sides of the same coin. There are two facets or manifestations of the mind, right? So the mind is a function of the Buddha nature, or the Dharmakaya. And within the mind, you can have consciousness, and you can have wisdom, right? So we want to flip the switch, flip the coin, so to speak, so that it's wisdom, okay? That we're using our wisdom, not consciousness, okay? Now, okay, so do not let causes and conditions dictate how we perceive, feel. So that's really that's our mindset, right? So do not give rise to ignorance, right? Giving rise to ignorance basically is having our heart and mind be aroused or perturbed by what's through our senses, right? Through the senses, by anything that's going on. So we want to achieve this non-subjective, non-dualistic, non-attached state of being. All right. We always say this, right? Let go of all karmic affinities. Do not give rise to a single thought. And I also add this here, basically like contentment. Contentment is very important in practice, and because it really just means it just is, right? And it's kind of oneness, because contentment means you don't need anything else. You don't need to gain anything. You don't need to get anything else. You don't need to attain. There's nothing to attain. So that's similar, right? That's why, and you can say this is kind of a practice of that non-attainment, right? So that's, hey, I'm content. I don't need anything more. Okay. And finally, the sutra is telling us, that we have to help or guide others to also become awakened once we are awakened to this, right? Okay. Okay. So this, in at least in the Mahayana, in the Buddhism, they have this thing called the 5 profundities of explaining a sutra. Okay. So in the first one is the explanation of the terms and names. In this case, that's the title of the sutra. Okay, what's the sutra is called? So in our case, we have the heart of the Prajna Paramita Sutra. Okay, so basically, Prajna Paramita is the Dharma, and the heart of is the example. So it's basically saying it's an example of the Prajna Paramita teaching, or the Dharma. Okay. Now, the second one is the definition of the substance. Okay. All right. So Dharma, and what the sutra is saying is that Dharma and mind are interdependent and arise together out of voidness, right? That they're all void. They have no essence of their own, okay, because they are interdependent, right? So there's nothing without one or the other. I mean, when you don't have the other, then you don't have the one. And so that means there is no essence. Okay. The third one, is the classification of the principles, right? That there's nothing to be attained. Okay, that's So because everything is void of essence, right? What is there to let's see, right? What is there to gain or attain, right? So anything that can be attained is empty. In fact empty. Right? Everything comes from or is the essence or void nature. All right. So it's just, you can say it's a transformation of it, or at least a part of it. Okay. It's kind of like grasping at shadows or the image in a mirror, right? That it's not real. It's just an illusion. Okay. And so just again, just like we treat the three treasures as something that we gained when we received the Tao blessing, but they are actually already with us. Okay, so we didn't really get anything per se. We got some knowledge, that's true, but that's not the true three treasures. All right, it's not the knowledge. All right, it's the fact that we have to realize the three treasures within us. All right, and then okay, so again, the Buddha. Okay, he had to let go. All right, and then the fourth one, right, is the discussion of its application. Right, so realizing that nothing can be attained, then how does greed arise? Okay, so when you apply this principle of nothing to be attained and the emptiness or the voidness, we can recognize the true mind and eliminate the three poisons. Right? Yeah. So realizing that all is void of essence, there is nothing. That it can't stand on its own, in other words, right? Then how does anger or hatred arise? Right? Realizing that all dharmas and the mind are void, how does ignorance or delusion arise? Right? What we have to realize is that the three poisons are not innate characteristics of the essence, right? That's an important thing. All the things that we think of as, oh yeah, this belongs to me, this is part of me, is not. It's not. It's empty. Okay, those are all empty. Right, so because all right, and then the fifth profundity is the discernment of the doctrine, basically the ripening of the fruit. In other words, through the practice and the achievement, the ultimate achievement, that we prove. You can say prove this is true. Okay, so ultimately we have to go through the practice and achieve it ultimately. All right. All right. Okay. So this is just a simple illustration of saying, well, why do you think there's really nothing to gain or lose? Okay. Okay. So why do we think there is something to gain or lose? Well, we have a limited and subjective ego, a small self. That's the circle here, the ego. That's us. Okay. And in this whole universe, we are just this little part, and well, obviously we are so little. There's everything else is something that we don't have, right? It's not in our possession. So we think that, yeah, then there's all that to gain, all the stuff that we don't have, right? Whether it's power, wealth, fame, all these things. Okay, those are all external, right? We don't have those, and so we think that, oh, that's something that we can gain, right? But actually, you have to realize that everything is within the essence. So the yellow is background. That's the true self. Okay, the Dharmakaya, the Buddha nature, that sunyata encompasses everything, and so all of the stuff, all the material things, everything, even all the all the sentient beings, they're all contained within it. Okay, everything is there already. So there is nothing to gain or lose or loss. Should be lose, but this is basically. Change that, lose. All right. Yeah, so because it's kind of like, oh, I have something in my left hand, and if I maybe grab it in my right hand, then I gotten something. No, I didn't get anything. I just transferred it from the left hand to the right hand. I didn't gain anything, right? So it's the same thing. It's all within this, inside, and so there's the net result is there's no gain, no loss. Okay. Right. So but besides that, right, all these things that we pursue, that we want, are all delusions or illusions. They're not real. They don't stand on their own. The wealth doesn't last. The power doesn't last. Fame doesn't last. Right. None of it lasts. And so So there's nothing to gain in the end. I mean, right, or whatever you might gain, you're going to lose anyways. So, all right, so that's kind of a simple illustration to understand that why there's nothing to gain or lose. Okay. All right. Now the other thing is, this arousal of the mind is ignorance. All right. So there's another little story, I guess, in the Sixth Patriarch Platform Sutra, right, about this flag that's blowing or flapping in the wind, right? So basically, Sixth Patriarch Huineng, right, eventually after he left the Fifth Patriarch, and after he got away from, Hui Ming and the horde of the disciples chasing him, okay, he actually stayed with a group of hunters for 15 years. Although they're hunters, but they eat meat. But he's still, obviously, he's a vegetarian, and so he only ate vegetables during that time. Okay, and in fact, he tried to release the animals that they caught sometimes, when they're not around. But anyways, he also kind of taught them some of the Dharma. But anyways, the time came for him to spread the Dharma for real. Okay, so in the outside world. In society. And so he arrived at this monastery where the abbot, there's a master Yinzong, he was preaching the Parinirvana Sutra. Out in the courtyard there was a flag that was flapping in the wind, and two monks were arguing below. Right? One said, "The wind is moving." The other said, "No, the flag is moving." And they couldn't reach a conclusion, right? So, is really the flag moving? I mean, if we analyze it today, we say, well, yeah, sure, the flag is moving. I see it moving, right? I see it flapping in the wind. Unless it was some kind of illusion, it is definitely moving, right? Now, the other guy saying, well, the wind moving. Well, is the wind moving? Again, from our scientific analysis, we can say, yeah, definitely the wind is causing the flag to move, right? Because the wind is blowing. If the wind wasn't blowing, the flag wouldn't be moving, okay? So definitely the wind is also moving. So the person who's saying, yeah, the flag is moving, I mean, it's true. The wind is also moving. So they're both right in that sense. But that is kind of taking two sides of this issue, if you will, right? And that's duality. So you're taking sides here. You're taking one stand or the other, right? Kind of different perspectives, if you will. But again, that is a duality, and so we want to avoid duality. And so what does the Sixth Patriarch say? He says the mind is moving. Ooh, now there is something that's very profound, because this is not, there's no duality here. The mind is moving. Okay, so now really the mind is the root cause. Okay, so it's what he's saying is basically that, yeah, it's not to say that the flag wasn't moving, wasn't flapping, the wind wasn't blowing. They were, okay? From scientific point of view, you say, yeah, they were definitely moving. But Sixth Patriarch is saying the mind is actually moving because the mind is really the root cause of things, right? It's really the root cause. I mean, we think, well, my mind, I didn't move the flag, I didn't move the wind with my mind. But it's really the arousal of the mind, okay? So that's really leading to ignorance, right? Qi xing dong nian, right? We say once the mind is aroused, that leads to ignorance, and so this moving of the mind is something that we want to learn not to do, right? Remember we say, let go of all karmic affinities. Don't give rise to a single thought. That is to avoid ignorance. Okay, don't arouse the mind, right? Because basically, we want the mind to be still, right? In quiescence. Okay, that is the mind of wisdom, all right? Is the quiescent mind, not the mind that is constantly in motion, right? Okay, so all right. So so what happens in the mind is more important than what happens externally, right? That's also, you can say, another meaning here. That basically, ultimately, it is the mind that is the root of everything, right? That is the root of causality, of cause and effect, of karma, right? If we can address the root cause in our mind, then we won't create karma. All right. Okay. And so, yeah, so that's why they say, you know, let go of all karmic affinities and not give rise to a single thought. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So final thoughts, getting back to that trisyllogism that we kind of briefly talked about throughout the lectures here. Basically, in the first stage, right, it's basically normal sentient beings, but they have a view of duality. Right? I see a mountain is a mountain, a river is a river. Basically, they see the forms. Okay, and so, but this I is the ego. Again, it's coming from the ego, the false self. There's subjective duality here, and there's attachment to forms. Right. Now, the thing is, you know, classical science kind of treats reality as kind of like in this first stage. You know, they see, hey, there's form, there's matter, right? Material things, they're real, okay? And other things don't exist, right? But today, right, in physics, they kind of start to see reality. You know, there's some physicists who kind of start to see reality as kind of in the second stage, where it's still the duality because it's kind of the opposite of the first one. It says, I see a mountain is not a mountain, the river is not a river. They say, well, these are not real. They don't exist. Okay, there's nothing. But you know, it's still coming from the subjective I, right? But in this case, it's a denial or negation of the first view, the form of forms, right? And this can also be or lead to attachment to emptiness, which is when we talk about the emptiness here is or nothingness. Okay, so that's not. We don't want to go down that path. Now, ultimately, to get to the third stage, right, we have to let go in order to attain or to achieve, right? Now, remember the Chinese word "de," right, means you have to let go or relinquish in order to gain or to attain something, all right? So, and it's automatic, right? So it's like giving is receiving. We don't have to try to get something. We just need to let go. We just need to give up or relinquish, and then we automatically have it. Okay. All right. So in the third stage, it's the enlightened being. It's non-duality, right? I see a mountain. I think usually they say is still a mountain, but I say, you know, I see a mountain is just a mountain. A river is just a river. Okay, to indicate that they are what they are. Suchness. Okay, that's oneness. All right. So in this case, the I here is no longer the subjective I, the ego I. It's the I of the Dharmakaya, the true self. It's non-subjective, right? So this is like this is the true. This is the oneness. Okay, from the you might say absolute or view. Okay, but there's no duality, no attachment. It refutes the negation of the form of the second stage, right? And it's the realization of oneness, suchness, sunyata, dharmakaya, true form of the formless, all that. Okay, so this is achieving the oneness. So it's really the oneness of the first two, right? You don't become attached to the forms or the emptiness, but it's actually oneness of these two, the forms and the emptiness, right? For us, especially in science, it's hard to accept that because these are kind of opposites, you can say, and but the oneness is that, all right. So you know, so that's why it's kind of sometimes we might have to undo some of our mindset or our way of thinking. Okay, change our way of thinking. Okay, so once we are in that third stage, then there is nothing to attain or achieve, right? Because we are one with everything. We are one. We are it. Okay, so yeah, the thing is, you know, maybe it's somewhat ironic that we realize that in fact we did not attain anything because it was already there to begin with. So nirvana, right? We feel like we need to attain it because we're not there, but actually we didn't really attain it, right? It was already there. Okay, it's just a question of getting rid of the other stuff, right? Okay, So what actually happened, right, is just a change of perspective, change of in our state of mind, and we letting go, right? So we have to realize that we cannot take a shortcut in the cultivation practice to get to the third stage. We must practice to flip the switch in our mind, right, to change that perspective, change our state of mind, to and to start letting go, right? It is like we always say that we use the Dharma boat to cross the bitter sea, but once we reach the other shore, we must let go of the boat. Okay. All right. Oh, all right. Yeah, and this is something that sometimes we say, right? The reality definitely depends on our perception, right? So if the heart and mind is false, then everything is false, right? Perception of the ego, the consciousness, is subjective and dualistic, and it's false. It gives us a false or delusional view of reality, right? If the heart and mind is true, then everything is true, right? Perception of the Bodhi mind, right? The Prajna wisdom is non-subjective and true. That is how we can see the true reality, right? So reality is in the state of mind, or is in the mind, is in the state of mind, right? Just make sure that it is not the ignorant or deluded mind. Okay, so all the things that that's talked about in the sutra, the five skandhas, right? That's the deluded mind, right? That's the consciousness, the deluded mind. We have to kind of break free of that, right, in order to see the true reality, right? Okay. Okay. So, and the practice of the middle way is basically non-duality, right? The middle way is not to be in duality. It's not favoring one side or the other, right? The yin and yang is considered the duality, but really it's the oneness of the two together, okay? And well, here it says middle way is kind of like going in between this middle, between the twos, right? So you're not taking one side or the other, for example, and it's non-subjective, it has no attachment, right? And it's you have contentment without, there's no such thing as needing to gain, or there's nothing to lose. Okay. And so it is really the unity or the oneness and the harmony. So you can say that the unity or the oneness is like the essence, and the harmony is actually the function or the application. Okay. When we apply this oneness, the result is what we call the harmony. All right, because there's no harmony. There's no one way to achieve harmony, right? Or there's no one set thing that says, oh, this is harmony, right? It depends on the situations and everything, right? So we have to use our wisdom to apply to get to that. So it's also not saying, oh, I'm right and you're wrong, and then you won't, there's no harmony there. Okay, so harmony is not that either. Okay, so all right, so it's not just a concept, it must be practiced, right? Because the mind is the function of the Buddha nature essence, right? And you can say that the practice is the function of the mind, okay, or it's part of the function of the mind, right? So and again, we go back to the main principles of Wu-Wei, right? Here I just simplified it to say it's the Buddha nature spontaneity, right? But it's without motive, without duality, without subjectivity, without attachment, right? And it's Suiyuan, which is basically doing it according to whatever you're doing is in accordance with it's unforced and natural affinity. Okay, so that's like just kind of following the path here, basically, or like water, right? Water, how it flows. It doesn't force its way through things. It takes the path of least resistance. It goes around objects, right? Things like that, right? So yeah, I mean, you can say, just kind of be like water, right? That's what Bruce Lee says, right? To be like water. But anyways, okay. All right, so get to the final words. Final words by Albert Einstein. Yes, this is Mr. Relativity himself, right? He says this, right? A human being is a part of the whole, called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. he experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. Right, this delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Nobody is able to achieve this completely, but the striving for such achievement is in itself a part of the liberation and a foundation for inner security. Right? So he's basically saying something similar here, that, yeah, we are deluded into thinking that this ego, this sense of self is everything. It's not. It's only a small part, and it's separated. We think we're separated from this universe, from everything, right? So this is right. So it becomes a prison for us, right? It's restricting us, right? So that's why we cannot have that mind of equanimity, right? We treat everyone, all sentient beings, equally, right? We don't see their true nature, the Buddha nature, the essence that's in everything, right? We only see through our ego, through our limited view, our five skandhas, that we view things as people are different and separate from us. Okay, so he's saying that, yeah, we need to kind of widen this circle, basically, of compassion, or, you know, you say broaden our heart and mind, broaden our mind, widen that, so to be able to encompass everything. So that is this is very similar to what the whole philosophy that we're talking about, and the principles. Okay, so with that, I guess that's it. That finishes our discussion of the Heart Sutra. If I had said anything wrong or had not said anything satisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and also I asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.